I remember when we won our green card, after all the battles, the legal battles of the immigration ended and we got our green cards. He said, this right here is your bread of life. This right here is how you will afford your life in the US. This is how you will feed yourself. This is how you will feed your family. This is your American dream. This is my inheritance to you. This card right here. As a woman, and especially as a Black woman, as an immigrant woman, already stepping into this space that is predominantly dominated by white, older men, you don't see a lot of people who look like me in spaces of power. The whole statement of who gave you the right to run came from my own community, my own Kenyan community, telling me that I needed their permission to run. These other people who've come before me, who don't look like me, did they come and ask permission from this community to run for office? Well, this individual told me, what will Huldah bring to me personally? And I'm sitting here going, personally? That's what's been killing us. We sit here and we think about ourselves. The campaign manager, Kate, walks over to me and she goes, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. We didn't win. And I remember feeling like a big old truck just hit me, like I couldn't breathe. Because at that moment I was thinking, how is it even possible? How do you put so much energy into something and not get it?
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi, and as always, we get to meet for another thought-provoking conversation. This time to do what? Learn and relearn. And let me tell you guys, I admire my guest today. She is the true definition of you can start from somewhere. And it's funny, I was telling her before we went on, before we started recording, it's funny how people don't see the years before the harvest. We will see the harvest, but sometimes what we don't talk about enough is the years before this big harvest. And I hope the end of the day she's going to inspire you and she's going to encourage you to continue pursuing whatever it is you are pursuing. So please don't give up on yourself. But before I can let her introduce herself, you know guys, I have to say thank you so much to you. We have gotten to 1.13 million subscribers. Like, we started this year having different conversations and you guys have sent us your feedback. It has been amazing, and you've also supported us by subscribing, so thank you so much. I don't take you guys for granted. You have been active participants of our work, and that really makes me happy. And also to say thank you to our amazing team. You get to see me in front of this camera, but if I was to pan these cameras, you guys, you would see it takes an entire tribe to be able to put this conversation together. And of course, appreciate our partners of today's conversation, King's Developers Limited. I've spoken about them enough this year. Go get your apartments with them. I always say I bring only reputable partners on the show. So if you're looking into owning a home with an ISO certified real estate company, why don't you talk to our people at King's Developers Limited? And also to thank myself for giving you guys beautiful conversation along the year. Christmas imekuja, and I only hope we can be able to join again in January and have more thought-provoking conversations. And now guys, without further ado, please allow me to let my gorgeous, intelligent superwoman guest introduce herself. Nakuchocha.
Hey, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Hi.
Hi, Lynn. It is a pleasure
Dream
and an
come
honor.
true.
Thank you. A dream come true to be sitting on this infamous couch with my sister Lynn here to talk about thought-provoking conversations. I want to just honor you, give you your flowers before I even introduce myself. Because I've been watching you since I can't even remember. Your stories have inspired all of us. And so thank you to your team for just providing this platform. So everybody, my name is Huldah Momanyi Hiltsley. It is an honor to be here. I am a daughter of Kenyan immigrants. I was born in the Kenyan soil, and I'm excited to sit here and have these amazing conversations with my sister Lynn, and to hopefully inspire somebody to know that you can come out of nowhere and do amazing things in this world.
Thank you so much. Just to know you watch us, it's, oh my God, it's a huge blessing. Areas of improvement, maybe where do you think we can actually work on, and maybe what more conversations would you love to see?
Honestly, you are doing it. This setup is beautiful because I started noticing that it's more, modern, more energy.
Yeah.
You bring some character into the studio, and I applaud that. But ultimately, continue bringing those, conversations that are changing lives. You never know. You sharing somebody's story, what that's gonna do for somebody else. I remember there's a story that you did on a young lady who went to the diaspora, and then everything didn't work out. Then she came back to to Kenya, and she found her path, and I thought, everybody's wanting to go to diaspora and make it. But then that wasn't her path. She came back home, and now she's thriving, and so those are the conversations that I continue to just hold dear to me. Conversations that remind me that, we're not alone. We're in this together. People are going through a lot. And some of the conversations that you have are, unreal, but it reminds us that we are human and that it takes a village to make us feel okay, and so I'm excited to, have this. I don't know where you're gonna lead it, but I'm trusting you.
We're gonna flow.
So go ahead. We're gonna flow.
We're gonna flow.
Yes.
Let me ask, in our areas of growth, I think for me the biggest struggle, and it's amazing that I'm here with you, maybe I get to ask this. My biggest struggle has always been, I want to leave the comfort zone, but the comfort zone is working for me, right? I don't want to go on the other side because I don't know what's there, and I feel like it's a struggle with so many people. For you, what has helped you leave your comfort zone? And are there moments when you wanted to still stay at that comfort zone?
I think for me, it's my support system. Obviously my wonderful husband, Mr. Ndieki, who's here, allowing me to explore. I'm one of those people who've always had these grand ideas. Even when I was young, I've always had this just very interesting imagination in terms of, just dreaming of things that were out of reach. And so to be sitting here as the newly elected representative, it's that support system that I've had, allowing me to go outside of my comfort zone again and explore that. And then also the other side too, I think about my professional career. I stayed in a place that was comfortable because I thought that I wasn't worthy more than that space, right? But then I remembered when I started fighting for myself, asking for what I was worth, and not getting it, and thinking about leaving that space, it was hard. Because that's what I was used to. It was comfortable, and that job was paying the bills.
It's familiar.
I'm telling you. But the moment I decided enough was enough and realized I was worth more than what they were giving me, and I left without not knowing whether or not I had a job, without knowing what was next, with my husband going, okay, now what are we doing here? Right? When I stepped out in faith, things worked out. And throughout my life, it has always been this, walking in faith and trusting that God has, a place, and God will work it out as long as I put in the work, as long as I put in the effort. And then once I put in the effort, I stand still and let God work it out. Yeah. Sometimes, it's like in the human nature, in the human realm, it's like, this is not, what are you doing? How are you going to quit a job without another job? Because you have bills to pay, you have a mortgage to pay, you have a family to support. But then every single time, Lynn, God has provided. Yeah. It wasn't how we thought about it, but it was more than what we wanted.
I love that.
And so here we are, entering into a whole new chapter. I mean, right now, I'm looking at my life going, how did I even end up here? And it keeps on going back to, it's by the grace of God that I'm
good.
sitting here.
Because I want to get to how you got here. I always tell
Yes.
people every testimony has a test.
Yes.
Because sometimes we are so big on the testimony, but we are not vulnerable enough to share the test. And I respect that, right? But before we get to how you got here, we want to know where here is. Could you walk us through this position? When you say you are a newly elected this and this, what is that and how does it feel and what roles are you going to play?
Yes, so there's a lot there. So let me break it down in the different compartments here. So number one, how I got here in my role. So I was elected as the first Kenyan-born legislator ever in the whole entire U.S. That alone, I didn't realize that until Tom Gita, he's a journalist then really covering the immigrant community. He's Kenyan as well, Mushale, right? He's the one who did all that research, literally combed the whole entire US. And when he called me at midnight saying, Huldah, you are the first. And I'm sitting here going, what are you talking about? What first? What are we? He's like, no, you are the first Kenyan-born. Obviously, Obama was the first Kenyan-American, right? And it's so funny now that my name is associated with Obama. Hey, take it. It's unreal. Sis, it's unreal. So just to even think about it, that my name is being mentioned in the same conversation as Obama. That alone, because people are like, no, she's not the first Kenyan-born. He wasn't born in Kenya. I was born in Kenya. I heard that. Okay.
Please. Hey, Celine. You see how excited Celine? You inspire. Look at how go on. Yes.
Yes. So this seat, it's a House of Representatives. So just a really quick overview of the American politics. So we have the federal and we have the state. The state literally mirrors the federal. So we have three branches. We have the executive, which is the president, and then in the state level, it's the governorship, right? And then we have Congress there that is made up of the House and the Senate. At the state level, we're called the legislature body, which is made up of the House and the Senate, and then obviously the judicial. And so this seat is the House of Representatives for the state of Minnesota, because a lot of people think it's Congress. I'm not there yet.
Yes.
God's working that out.
Amen.
Okay, in the background.
Sis, we're going to sit here for that.
And so I represent my city. It's Brooklyn Park, and then Osseo, another city. So it's a population of about 30,000 people.
Wow.
Again, I'll be adding to the immigrant legislators now. We are about four of us, only four of us, when the population of Minnesota really reflects a big percentage of that African immigrants.
Yes.
So it's a long time coming, but we're here. And then the second part of that, I think it was about how I got here. That's a long journey, and I wish we had all day to talk about it. So when my family migrated to the U.S., I was 9. My dad came here in the mid to late 80s, and then my mom came in 1993, and then we came in 95. And so when we first got here, got to the U.S., it's immigrants who are trying to navigate a new culture, a new language, you name it. And then we didn't have a whole lot of Kenyans like we do now. I remember back in the day when we were literally, all of us, the whole entire small Kenyan community would go to the airport because we heard there was a Kenyan coming to the U.S. And so to move forward, my dad and my parents fought the immigration system for 11 long years. And you know how complex the immigration system is in the US. And so after that, it was my church, which was African American, petitioned then Senator Paul Wellstone, who was very well-loved senator in the state of Minnesota and in the country. And he is the one who literally went and lobbied for my family, protested for my family. Didn't know us from anywhere, but he truly believed in the spirit of humanity. And he believed that we contribute to the fabric of the state of Minnesota. We bring in our culture. We are contributing economically. And he was like, you guys belong here. So he went and fought for us. Within 48 hours, if it ain't God, I don't know what it is. But within 48 hours, our case was overturned. And I couldn't have imagined at that moment, I was just a preteen then, that moment would literally change the trajectory of my life to lead to now this moment where 22 plus years later, I used to say I'm running for office. I can now say I've actually been elected into office. You know, so when you talk about how I got to this place, that is the personal journey of how I got here. But then what really pushed me, my why, yes, my why was that, you know, I did a lot of community work. And I was the president of the biggest Kenyan organization in the Midwest. And I would go to the Capitol, literally lobby, try to talk to these elected officials, tell them, we are here, we see there's money here, we see there's resources here. What about our community? We have special needs that are not being met at the Capitol. Like nobody's at the table literally talking on our behalf. Nothing, my sister. Have you ever felt like invincible, where somebody has completely dismissed you?
You don't exist. I don't care.
All of that. That's how I would feel. And then what did it for me was that we were having a fundraising event for the current mayor, my mayor, and the current senator. They came. You know, I approached them and I was like, hey, you know, we've been petitioning your office for this and this and that for our community. She literally took her card, hands it over to me and says, call my office. Literally just did that with her hand because I could vividly remember that moment. And I'm sitting here going, I literally looked at our card and I'm like, we have been calling your office. We have been emailing you. We've come to the Capitol, but you tell us you're busy with your meetings, right? And I just stood there and I was like, I felt so belittled and small. And then what did it was when she stood up in front of everybody, announced her retirement, and then endorsed another candidate in that same, you know, event. And I'm sitting here going, this is not the American democracy that I love and that I want to fight for. Yeah. This is not literally how leaders are chosen, you know? And I was like, you know what? I looked around and I was like, somebody needs to run. And I remember a friend of mine who's also Kenyan, Chewy, saying, oh, whatever, just, you know, just laughing, you know, thinking that I was just being funny. I was like, no, seriously, somebody needs to run. And I remember that night at 3 a.m. in the morning under the covers going, how do I become a candidate? Literally Googling how to become a candidate. And I remember my husband was laying there going, can you please turn that phone off? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing on your phone? Literally researching how to become a candidate. And from there, you know, I remember not having, you know, a seasoned campaign team because nobody wanted to touch my campaign because I'm brand new, didn't know where to start, didn't have the resources. But somehow, some way, just stepping out in faith, putting myself in that position, literally God started to put pieces together, bringing people on my path and bringing people to advise me. And I remember a really good friend of mine telling me, you don't need an experienced team. You need somebody who's passionate about your vision, who wants to support you, and who wants to put in the work, and y'all can you can Google how to run a campaign. You need that manpower to literally come in there and put in the work. And that's that was my mentality when I was looking for people. I was literally even individuals who didn't even think that they could run a campaign. You know, we approached them and we're like, hey, do you want to be a campaign manager? Especially my first campaign manager, Kate Lundquist. I will forever be grateful for her. This lady didn't know nothing about campaigns, nothing at all. Now she literally has a job where she's supporting women run for office, especially women of color. These are white women, literally going out of her way, right? And so she came in and she was like, I don't know how to be a campaign manager, but I'm good at organizing. I believe in your vision. I love your energy. What are we doing here? Who do we need to Google? Like, what do we need to do? And from there, we built a team to the point where we were ranked second in voter education. And the party started noticing. While I lost that race, it was a Senate race in 2022, we learned a lot. We gained a lot. And coming into this race, we came in with knowledge, we came in with lessons learned, and here we are. We won it. And it was literally the individuals who are with me from the beginning. So I look back and I'm like, for me as a candidate, as a leader, invest in your people, right? Because even if they don't have the skill set that you're looking for then and there, if they have the heart, if they have the initiative, they have the intentions, bring them in. All of the technical stuff, they can learn along the way. And they've literally stuck with me this whole entire time. Yeah.
It takes an entire team.
It does.
God, I want to touch on two things because you got me. You know when they say, when the student is ready.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
When the student is ready, the master appears. That's what they say, right? And I'm looking at you and you're saying, I have a vision, I have a dream, I know I can do this. And you're even doing it under the covers. You're there Googling, at night. Because this is the vision you have. And sometimes people might not understand our vision. Sometimes you don't even want to explain your vision to other people because you're scared of what if they shrink it? What if they tell me, no, don't do it right now.
And all of those happened. All of that happened.
No way.
Oh, yes. I would sit here and I would walk up to somebody because I would, in my mind, I think that person has that skill set that I need for my team. I would go and explain to them, super energized. They're like, I'm sorry, who are you? What do you need? You don't even qualify. You don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have that. And in my head, I'm like, you have no idea what I'm capable of doing. Do you even understand, the toll that it takes to run a campaign on your family, on this, on that? And I'm sitting here going, do you understand where I come from? Do you understand what my family has gone through? This is nothing. This is a walk in the park for me. Do you understand? I had to take 19 credits in college and work 2 jobs to pay for my tuition, and of course took a couple of loans to get through. You have no idea my lived experiences and how they've prepared me. I'm not afraid of hard work because I remembered that there was a really a strong old timer in our district where if you want to run for office, you would go to him and talk to him and get advice. And the whole entire time he's telling me, Huldah, you don't understand. This space is toxic. This space is this. You have to put in work. You have to have simple nights. In my head, I'm like, if only you knew my personal story, you wouldn't even doubt. Now he is the biggest supporter of me. This man is like, I have seen her, I've witnessed, I have no doubt that she is ready for this role. Like, he did the most amazing campaign video for me. But it took me literally telling him, this is who I am. Because as a woman, and especially as a Black woman, as an immigrant woman, already stepping into this space that is predominantly dominated by white, older men, that the infrastructure and the institutions are not catered to somebody who looks like me, somebody who talks like me, somebody who comes from a certain, background that is not your norm, right? Where, running for office for me is by the grace of God, because most of these people have businesses. They can step away and run for office. Some of us minority individuals, we can't afford to step away and do this, right? And still pay the bills, take care of our kids, do all of these things that we expected to do. And so that's why when you, especially in the US, when you look at our leadership structure, even in corporate America that I work in, you don't see a lot of people who look like me in spaces of power. In lower levels, yes, you could see that. Even in managerial roles, they're far and far in between, right? And so stepping into this space, I had to push my way in, if that makes sense. I literally had to go there and create the whole table. Make my own table.
Because sometimes you just gotta create your own table.
Absolutely.
Because
that table wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
And the table that was there, I wasn't even welcome into that table. I wasn't welcome. And they made it very clear that I wasn't welcome. Even my own party in the beginning, my chair did not even want to meet with me because they were like, you're not serious. Who are you? You're not even going to be able to run through a campaign because you still have to work. You still have to do this. You still have to do that. So they didn't honestly believe that somebody like me could step in there and be as successful as I have to be. My white counterpart, guess what? They don't have to deal with the nonsense that I have to deal with. They don't have to deal with me literally sitting here explaining myself over and over and over again that I'm overqualified for this, where somebody's like, oh, that's very nice. Oh, you have 3 degrees. Wow, that's very impressive. Why is it impressive? Why? When my white counterpart is walking around here with his degrees, you don't say, oh, that is very impressive. Oh my goodness. So technically in your mind, you look at me and you don't think that person can have 3 degrees, have a master's, have a nice career in corporate America, do all of these things because of your perception, right? And again, you know very well about racism in America, especially around Black people, immigrants. So dealing with all of that, you know, and now sitting here where my party respects me, they think I'm the next, you know, I'm the next face of the Democratic Party in the state of Minnesota, is a testament of what God can do. It's a testament of being true to yourself, being authentic to yourself, knowing your worth, knowing that regardless of what happens around you, you have to put in work to earn that respect.
Create your table.
Create that table and sit in it. And if nobody comes in, the right people will come in.
Continue.
The
Have your
right
meal.
people will come in and sit at that table. And that's what I need, the right people to sit at that table. Because not everybody you're going to want to sit at that table. And so it has been just a journey of trusting God. Even though when sometimes I go out there and I'm door knocking and I come across a door, you know, somebody's telling me, you, the N-word, right? Calling me the N-word and saying, you don't belong here, go back to Africa. Who gave you the right? My own community. Hey, my sister, that's another story for another day. Hey, love my community. But the whole statement of who gave you the right to run came from my own community, my own Kenyan community, telling me that I needed their permission to run. There's other people who've come before me who don't look like me. Did they come and ask permission from this community to run for office? But yet we sit here, we take pictures with them and say, yay. They go and they do their own thing. And then they come back in 4 years and say the same thing, right? And so going through all of that to finally be in a position where my community is like, that's our own. Yes, she came from our community.
I don't know how to feel about that. Because I don't know.
Interested.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel. I don't want to clap at it. I want to call it out, right? Yeah. Because we have this tendency. We don't like supporting our own. And then there's this authoritative nature we have. And I sensed this even with some communities, even in diaspora. There's a lot of hostility between us and among us. And you're like, can't we support one another?
Absolutely.
Can't we actually come together as a community? Why do we have to beef around each other? All odds are actually stacked against us. Why wouldn't you support your own? And then this whole jubilation of one of us, I'll be like, nah, excuse me, it's just us, man. Because I don't know how to feel about it. I want to be like, yeah, I'm one of you. When you can witness the harvest. But when we are doing the digging, when it's time to water, when it's time to plant, sow the seed, I'm not one of you.
Listen, even to this day, there's some people who don't even know that I ran for Senate. When I lost, nobody was there. When I was depressed for it was just my husband and my family who were checking in on me, saying, are you okay? What? It was a moment I look back now and I'm like, I'm so thankful I had my family. Because when you pour yourself into something, everything, your mind, your body, everything into it, and you lose in that way, and you sit here going, where's everybody else? And now the stark difference, now that I've won, it's like, oh, these people, where did these people come from? Even now with this race, asking somebody to simply donate $5, come and door knock, volunteer your time. A friend of mine was doing a lot of fundraising efforts in our community. And she said, well, this individual told me, what will Huldah bring to me personally? And I'm sitting here going, personally? That's what's been killing us. We sit here and we think about ourselves, not realizing that this, just for example, this role, now that I'm here, I used to say, if I get there, when I get there, you know, do our people really understand the magnitude of this role? I can petition our congressperson to look in your case in the embassy, the U.S. embassy. I can do this. I can petition a hospital to literally outfit another hospital here in Kenya, right? There's so many things that comes with this role and this position that has nothing to do with politics that can bring so much good to our community. And I sit here when she told me that, and I was like, we need to stop thinking about that individualistic. Because I sit here and I pride myself. Because when I go outside of the African context, I'm in the white spaces, I'm in the Asian spaces. I'm like, oh yeah, the African culture, the Kenyan culture, it's about unity, it's about community, it's about this. But then when you peel those onions, my friend.
Is it really?
Is it really? Is it really?
And one of my friends, Sasha, she says this, by the way, nini natusumbuanga, what's wrong with us? Because when you peel the onion, it's not it. But when we go out, we want to portray this whole unified image. Yeah. And that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, people would ask me, where's your Kenyan community? I would have an event, and who is running this event? My diverse team, white, Asian, you name it. And people are like, Huldah, there's a big, huge, because I see you going to parties. We are good at partying and doing fundraising for baby showers, matangas, all of that stuff, right? And again, don't get me wrong now. I think a lot of it stems from us not understanding what's at stake, right? That voter education, bringing our people want to see something first. Because now that they've seen that I've succeeded, my friend, it's going to be different next time. Next time I say, we're doing this, everybody's going to be like, yes. Yeah. And so I don't want to say that my community has not supported me, because they have. If you look at the money, because you need money to run a very successful campaign. If you look at the fundraising efforts we did, 90% of the money that I raised came from the Kenyan community. So we have a long way to go in terms of understanding what's at stake when it comes to the political arena, because we haven't really explored into that, right? Because we are so caught up in our day-to-day, go to work, make sure our kids are good, go to church, and that's it, that cycle, right? But we never go outside of that. And I'm praying that this role would open our people up to realize that God didn't give us an opportunity to go to a foreign land and be successful to just stay stagnant. There's more to America than just going to work, going to school, and going to church, right? There's so much more. And when I say that, especially from a political perspective, my friend, sustainability is within the capital where policies and laws are made that will literally change the trajectory of your children and your children's children. That's where it's at. Yeah. And our people just need to know more about that.
Allow me to touch on the laws aspect. You are raised to Senate. You said something very important. You didn't make it, but you learned a lot. And I always listen to one of my favorite actors, the Denzel Washington, and he says, Denzel says, if you're not failing, you're not learning. Yes. But sometimes we don't want to fail. We want to get there without
fail. Just like that.
Talk to me about the importance of failure. What don't we get about failure? Do you think it's a beautiful thing? Should we just actually be vulnerable enough to let ourselves fail?
I think that's life. We're not guaranteed that we always succeed every single time. So for me, and again, it's human nature. You don't want to fail. You always, especially when you put your soul in, nobody steps into a situation wanting to fail. Nobody in their right mind, literally, I'm going in there so I can fail. No, they're going in there to win. But I think the difference is, what do you do with that failure? How do you move after that? And for me, there were stages to that, right? There was that initial stage of grieving, my friend. I'm walking in, let me just walk you a little bit. My husband can attest to this. So that watch night, because we felt that the momentum was on our side. We were like, yes, we got this. Like, the community is on our side. So my team was like, you stay back, let us go ahead, make sure the venue is good, make sure it's packed, make sure people are there, the music is bumping. I pull up. Hey, I see my whole entire team. Man. Hey. It's like literally just reliving just that whole moment. It's just a lot.
You need a moment.
Just my whole entire team literally standing there, and I could feel it. So my campaign manager, Kate, walks over to me, and she goes, "We didn't do it. We didn't do it. We didn't win." And I remember feeling like a big old truck just hit me, like I couldn't breathe. Thank you.
No, it's all right.
I literally just leaned down because I just needed to just get some air. And my husband going, "It's all right." And I remember telling them, just give me a second. I just needed to literally just walk and just breathe, take it in, right? Because at that moment I was thinking, how is it even possible? How do you put so much energy into something and not get it, right? But at that moment, I didn't realize that God was refining me, right? That God was still in that moment. God was still sitting in the throne. And he still was writing my story, you know. And so after I caught my breath, you know, I walked over and my husband was like, "You know what? There's a big group of people in there waiting for you, who are still rooting for you, who still love you, who still care for you. And I know it's hard, but you have to go in there and at least say thank you." You know? And so I had to compose myself and walk in there. But what caught me by surprise, it wasn't the fact that, you know, we lost. It was the fact that everybody was cheering. They were cheering. And this is us. We haven't won yet, but they were cheering because of everything that we had put into this and the work that had gone into this. And so I remember saying, you know, tonight wasn't our night, and really just being grateful for everything that everybody poured into the race. And just remembering that all of them were there for me, and just being so humbled by that moment. And so from there, obviously, we closed that chapter, and my team and I actually, they were literally like, within a week, they were like, "All right, Huldah, what are we doing next? Because we're not done." And I remember thinking, what are they talking about? I'm done. But then we decided to come to Kenya. My whole entire campaign team. These are people who never left the state of Minnesota, but they wanted to come to see where their leader came from. And so I brought my whole entire campaign team here, and they had a blast. I took him to safari. I took him to the village. I took him to Mombasa. And they really, I remember Kate telling me, this has been a full circle for us. This has literally showed us why you are who you are, the heart that you have because of the people here.
Sometimes it's not about the win. It's about the people who are still with you, even after you lose. You just give me a moment, like, man, you just like remind, sometimes I see how our audience go to war for me. Like, I could wake up and I'm trending and I'm like, oh my,
what happened now?
Why? And before you get there, they already got there before you.
Oh, yes.
They don't know you. They just see you on their screen, but they feel the need to still stand with you, even when some people think this is such a huge loss for Lynn Ngugi. But there's always like a community of people. Oh, yeah. Man, that was such a moment. But I also love what you said. You breathe, look around, get up. Because we're not staying in this moment forever.
Absolutely not.
Because we got to move on.
Yes.
You know? And sometimes I feel like, and it's allowed, but tell me what you think. We stay in our loss moment, our grieving moment for such a long time that we forget that this failure does not define me.
Yeah.
There's so much more coming my way. But for me to get it, I have to stand up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn to fight again and just look around and say, you know what, I'm not giving up. Because had you given up that time, would we have this?
I would not be sitting here talking to Lynn, having something that is worth Lynn to sit here to discuss. And you talked about standing up, right? Sometimes it's not you who are standing up. It's literally those people around you who are lifting you up and physically uplifting you, saying, you got this. Because I remember my team literally coming around me and lifting me up and holding me and walking me into that space. Even after just a couple of moments of receiving that news, that to me gave me the strength to say, okay, I still have a job to do, right? And then past that moment into now this depression stage of like, what am I gonna do in my life now? Like that happened because I didn't just spring, because sometimes people are like, you just stand right back up and you keep going. Sometimes it's not as simple as just standing right back up and just keep going, you know? And for me, you know, it took a while to really go through acknowledging that moment and realizing that it happened, you know? But what was consistent, again, I go back to my family and my team, who literally became my extended family, who reach out, hey, what is going on? We need to know. When I didn't give them direction, they knew me well enough. Again, when you have people who know you well enough, who are sold into your vision, when you have lost that side of your vision, those people are there to continue carrying that vision for you. And that's what my team did. Because you know what they did? They got together, they were like, Huldah's going through whatever she's going through, but we know this is not the last for her. So they created what they coined, not me, they came together, Huldah's vote squad. And what that did was basically, because my team was like, Huldah, we know this is not it for you. So you know what? You need to figure out how to continue being proactive in this space and just keep going, right? By them doing that, do you know that literally set me apart from all of the other candidates? And this is what they did. So they created that vote squad, which went around the whole entire state of Minnesota, supporting other candidates in that same legislature, because I lost at the primaries. If you don't win at the primaries, you don't go to the general election. So I lost in the primaries. So there were another 2 solid months of campaigning before the general election. And so they got me so hyped up to the point where I was like, all right, I guess I'm going and door knocking for other people, right? Even though I've lost. Like sometimes when you're so caught up in your loss, you lose yourself, you lose your vision. And if you don't have that core group of people who have been sold from day one on your vision to continue lifting you up, that vision dies. It literally dies. And they continued making sure that that vision continued going, because what that did was it showed the party and everybody else, that is the ideal candidate right there. Look what happened. She lost, but she's out here door knocking, making phone calls, campaigning for other candidates. And when we won, when those candidates won, they were like, Huldah was out here multiple times door knocking for me, even after they lost. So creating a brand that I didn't have, creating a network, continuing to build on my network that I never thought I would have. And then this time around, when I was ready to announce, already that base was there for me to step into. And sometimes, honestly, when I look back, sometimes how you move literally sets your base for the next step, even though you don't even know what that step is, right? And me going and doing all of that, I wasn't thinking about running again. I was just like, you know what? My team again reminded me, it was never about just my race. It was never about Huldah. It was about the people of Minnesota. It was about making sure that at that time, the Democratic Party had a trifecta. Basically, we had the governorship, we had the House and the Senate, a trifecta to get things done, right? So it was about the big picture. And they continued reminding me of that. Now, this time around, all of those candidates, I was the most endorsed candidate in the whole entire session, campaign season, because all of these people remembered you came and donate. Even if I donate one time for a candidate, they endorsed my campaign.
Beautiful.
Organizations endorsed my campaign because I would reach out to them and say, hey, you're going to support this candidate. Can I join your bandwagon? They'd be like, oh yeah, Huldah, come on through, right? Not realizing that when I announced to run for House, these organizations were like, we know you. You reached out when you had lost and you supported this candidate, you did all this. And so sometimes when you move in a manner that is beyond just you, you're opening doors that you don't even know needs to be opened, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here going, I'm walking to a space that is familiar. I'm walking to a friendly territory. I'm not here fighting nobody. Obviously, I had my opponents, but I didn't have to prove myself. I didn't have to put in that energy to say, I'm here, I qualify, I'm worthy. I have all the credentials and then some for this position. That groundwork was already laid out. So after that loss, like you said, all of those things, I gained more than I lost. That's how I look at it.
I love that.
I literally gained more because now I learned who is who in the political sphere. I got a lot of support for unions and other organizations. And then the legislative body had so much respect for me because they knew exactly who I was and what I stood for.
Because we're prepared now and there's an opportunity. We're going to go. I love you. God, I know we are short of time, but
yes.
I'm looking at you, right? Your family is almost getting deported.
Yes.
And you have 48 hours to figure this out. And you figured this, your family figured this out. But someone would ask, Huldah, why America?
Yeah.
Ni nini tunatafuta America? What is there? Is it really the land of milk and honey? What opportunities are there? What would make your dad say, I love Kenya, this is my home, this is my soil, this is where I was born, raised, but I'm going to get opportunities outside. I'm going to chase a different dream. What would make your dad say, it's America, man, this is a land of opportunities?
I mean, and it's so true. I definitely want to acknowledge that America is a beautiful, good country. And when we talk about the American dream, it looks different for everybody. You know, as immigrants, when you come to America, you want to work so that you can support your family. And most of immigrants, not only are they supporting their families in the U.S. or in America, right? They also have to support their whole entire village here, right? And so my dad fighting, literally, because he could have decided, you know what, this is too much. 11 years of fighting, I'm done. Let's just go back home. We'll figure it out. But it's his background that made him fight even harder for his kids so that his kids can have better opportunities than he had. My dad grew up very poor, and they grew up where her mother literally would carry my dad to take him to school because my dad was the only one that, you know, they were able to afford so he can go to school. You know, and from there, he understood the magnitude of the moment, of the chance that he got to go to the U.S. Even that, you know, going to U.S., he always reminds us that he only had $60 in his pocket, $60, you know, and him knowing that this was his opportunity not only to provide for his nuclear family, but this was his family's way out of poverty, literally extreme poverty. I remember when we won our green card, after all the battles, the legal battles of the immigration ended and we got our green cards. My dad did something that I will never forget. He cooked. My dad never cooks in the house. He cooked that day. And when I say cooked, he made sandwiches.
Yeah,
sandwiches. Sandwiches. And so he calls us up and we're sitting at the table and my siblings and I are looking like, is that okay? Like, what's going on? What is happening? But he gave us each a sandwich and we started to eat it. And as we were biting down on it, our green cards were inside of it.
The sandwich.
And now we are taking out going, what is this? This is a green card? Okay. And
I'm
to us as kids, we're like, oh, well, this is, hey, finally, yay, right? But it's what he said next that literally changed how I thought about how I moved from there. He said, this right here is your bread of life. This right here is how you will afford your life in the US. This is how you will feed yourself. This is how you will feed your family. This is your American dream. This is my inheritance to you. This card right here. And I remember thinking, because at that point, I've had an experience, with my friends who are coming from those rich places. And I'm sitting here going, he will never give me that. But he's giving him an opportunity to get that, right? And so everything that I have done and I continue to do is out of this abundance of knowing that it is a privilege where I am sitting right now, and I'm not going to take it for granted. And so even my schooling, I was one of those people who was overachieving, not because I needed to, not because, I was smart, because I had to. I didn't have a choice. When I went to college, I went to a private university, and I'm taking out loans. I'm working as a nursing assistant, 2 jobs, taking 19 credits, literally have no life, right? As when you go to college, you want to go out there, have fun, have party, all of this stuff. Like my friends would be, Huldah, you're old.
You are full
I
of
literally
delulu.
became this Huldah, watch her, leave Huldah alone. She's either working or studying, leave her alone. Because in my mind, I was like, I don't have the luxury of a savings account somewhere. This right here is my savings account. So I need to get this 3 degrees. And if that means taking 19 credits, I'm going to do it. After I graduated from college, like literally that became my fire to excel, to literally work twice as hard. And that has built, when people talk about, oh, Huldah is resilient, Huldah is hardworking, it came out of necessity. It literally came out of, I don't have another choice. This is how I'm going to build myself up. This is how I'm going to create a life that my parents couldn't afford to give me. Not because they didn't want to, because they just couldn't give it to me. And here I have this opportunity to take it and create what I want. Oh, I'm going to milk every opportunity I can. And that has been literally the way I've lived my life.
Look at you now. Yeah. I love that, but it would be unfair for me to let you go. There's a whole conversation on immigrants. People are saying Trump, he doesn't want to see people here. This is his, he wants to protect, he wants to make America great again. I want to ask you, what's the truth in that, the risk in that, and the lie in that? Are you shaken? Do you feel like you don't belong in America? As much as you've worked hard to be there, do you feel you still don't belong? And do you ever envision coming back to a place where you might feel like you belong?
Honestly, there's a lot of truth to that in terms of, feeling that I don't belong there. Because guess what? America still grapples with its history of racism, especially against Black people, right? And as an immigrant, that's another layer of that prejudice and assumptions and racism layered into that. As soon as you walk out of the door in the U.S. as a Black person, you are reminded every day that you are Black in America. Me being in corporate America, I am constantly reminded that, I'll give you a quick example, especially in the corporate environment space. I flew in to the headquarters of my company, a former company. And I was the head of that meeting, right? So I flew in and I get to the, conference area. The assistant was doing, I don't know what she was doing. She was not in the conference area to really set everything up. So I was setting things up. Older white gentlemen, a couple of them walk in, having their, shop. They call it talk shop, or they were talking shop, whatever. It's a term that they use out there. They sit down and one of them asked me, excuse me, can you get us some coffee? And I'm sitting here going, oh, I can't wait. This is gonna be good, right? So I sat there and I was like, absolutely. Would you like, my properness and everything, would you like creamer with that? Would you like sugar? All of them gave me their orders, right? Yes. I went into the kitchen, put everything together, set them out there, brought out some cookies. And by the way, I got some cookies over here, gentlemen. You got some cookies. I'm like, oh, you are amazing. You're great. Thank you. Let everybody else come in, sit around the table. And people are like, okay, so we're waiting for, I walk around and I sit up there. You should have seen the look on those guys' faces. You should have seen it. For me, I don't have to do that, but I have to do it because of how still the prejudice of being Black in America is. These people didn't believe that I belonged at the head table. They didn't think that I was the one who was sitting there literally leading that initiative. And so at the end of the meeting, a couple of them walked up and were like, Mrs. Hiltsley, sincere apologies. We are so sorry. I'm like, no, you needed coffee, and I didn't mind giving you guys coffee. But guess what, though? You know what that taught him? That taught him not to judge. I bet you next time those gentlemen are walking into a room and they see a Black woman, they're not going to sit here and expect that Black woman is just there as an assistant. They're not. I'm hoping, right? But ultimately, going back to your original question, there's still racism in America. It's deeply rooted in every institution. Now, we have come a long way as a country. The fact that as an immigrant, I can run in that country and win and be accorded the courtesies of this position is a true testament of how far America has come, especially embracing the immigrant spirit. And that's the beauty of that. And that was the cornerstone of why the lottery initiative was created, because America understands that when you have diverse voices at the table, you have better solutions. That's why they continue with that. That's why now when Trump talks about make America great again, he's not talking about make America great again for everybody. He's talking about make America great again for who? For white people, And keep in mind, if you look at the history of America, most of us, the majority of us, came in as immigrants. Even these white people who claim America was theirs, the originators were Native Americans who were there long before even the white man stepped into that continent, right? And so when we look at his rhetoric and what he has done in the past, in his last presidency, are we scared? I would say there's a lot of fear that is going on within the immigrant community. But I also know that, as a state of Minnesota, let me just speak, I can't speak for other states, but I can speak for the state of Minnesota, is that we are a very progressive state. And with my conversations with our Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, he is very adamant about, making sure that as a state, we are sovereign in terms of certain key things. Obviously, there's federal matters that we can't change or we can't do anything about. But, when it comes to immigration issues, we are going to make sure that, the immigrant community feels supported. They feel heard. Right now, we're holding clinics about, because his whole rhetoric and the Project 2025, that has been dissected, right? And broken up into each individual topics. And obviously immigration is a part of that. We've looked at that and made sure that, legally, we are in a place where we can protect the immigrant community. And a lot of this too, a lot of the rhetoric that he's saying is legally impossible. Let me give you an example. He's going to sit here and talk about deporting literally half of the population who are immigrants, who are doing jobs that, most average American citizen do not want nothing to do with, right? And so if he is wanting to deport half of the population, there goes a U.S. economy. You know what I'm saying? So is there truth to it? Yes, but also we have to keep in mind that we have a constitution that we have to uphold. It doesn't matter who, and that's the beauty of the democracy of U.S., that there's a constitution and laws have to be followed. It does not matter whether you're a president or just a council member on a local level, right? And so we are trusting in our democratic process, and we'll explore that if need be to the full extent of the law in making sure that we are protecting our citizens, especially the state of Minnesota.
Go you. I love. Is that part of the legacy you want to leave behind?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously having that personal experience of going through, because a lot of times people are always saying, well, why illegal immigrants? Why can't you just go through the normal proper channels? I'm like, for me, the normal proper channels took 11 years, okay, to go through the proper channels to get, the documents. And so, we have a long way to go as a country when it comes to immigration, and it'll have to take the hand of God for the two parties to come together and really create a reform, an immigration reform that actually makes sense, that protects our borders, let's be honest, and then also make sure that we are treating people with dignity, with humanity and dignity. And so my legacy is I mean, 2 years is not a lot to really do a whole lot, but I want to be, you know, somebody can look back and say, you know, Huldah went there and she made a difference in one way or another. You know, Huldah went there and carried herself with grace and integrity and accountability. I want to serve my constituency, hopefully to a point where, you know, when I run next time, if that's God's path for me, you know, that groundwork again has been laid out, because now we're putting in the groundwork for whatever that step looks like, and especially our young women, our young girls, to look up and say, it's possible, you know, and to dream. You know, if you go to my WhatsApp, it says your dreams are closer than you think. You know, sometimes you sit here and you dream of an idea, and when you look around you, that idea doesn't fit the environment. Change that environment. Change that environment. Change it, because when you do that, everything lines up. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to dream. Literally, even if it doesn't come true, guess what? You've dreamt. Something different might come out of it that you didn't even dream about, that you didn't even think about. People always say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Well, my ancestors weren't dreaming that their God knows what would fly across somewhere to a foreign land and be elected and lead people there. My ancestors weren't dreaming about that. Okay. And so right now, probably my ancestors are looking like, okay, well, go on ahead, do you. God gave us the ability to think and imagine and dream. Utilize that and exercise that to the fullest extent, because you never know from that what will come out of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
God, I want to wind up, but there's a huge awakening happening in Africa right now. And one of the things I've seen people say is that Africa, Kenya, we provide good leaders. I mean, look at you, look at Kipchoge, look at Obama, look at Lupita, all these great people who, if you mention them, of course, Kenya as a country is in the picture, but we elect very, very bad leaders. Not leaders, sorry, politicians. We were told on the platform to call them politicians. Where do you think we go wrong in terms of advocacy, governance? Why do we shine in other fields but really suck?
When it comes to... I would honestly say that, you know, I got to a point where I stopped blaming politicians. I put it now on the people. It's our responsibility. It's literally the people's responsibility to elect their leaders.
But they still...
You
will be on the queue, but they'll say someone, you are here, my people. You know, like, they still steal the vote, so... We are woke. We are doing the right thing, but they will still go ahead and steal the vote. So sometimes, I don't know.
And again, right, there's a lot of factors that goes into that. You know, you mentioned stealing. You know, I can't really speak to that because I'm not in the political arena out here to really know how a lot of things go. But when we talk about change, change doesn't just come overnight. You know, when you look at the civil rights movement, you know, that didn't come overnight. You know, there was a lot of sacrifice, blood and tears that went into the civil rights movement, to the point where we are in the place now we, quote, are fighting for social and racial justice, right? So when you talk about Kenya and the environment which we're in, I'm optimistic about the future of this country, especially with what the young people are doing. Yeah. Literally standing up and saying, we have had enough, this is it. And literally it starts like this. And eventually all of those stealing politicians will literally fall on the wayside. Because if young people
Yeah.
start from this step and then integrate themselves into these spaces, right? And continue to add more and more of them into those spaces, eventually we're turning the tide. Yes, we can't address the different things that are happening right now. And yes, there's every country has its own issues. America has its own, we have our own issues there, you know, but I feel optimistic about the future of this country. It might not happen the next election cycle. It might not happen 2 election cycles from here. But I'm seeing a young generation of leaders who are sick and tired of not being able to afford their lives, who are sick and tired of politicians who are, you know, not being accountable for their own actions. All of these things combined, not being able to find a job after getting a master's degree. I have a cousin who has a master's degree in engineering and he can't find a job to save his life, right? In a country where we have endless potential, especially in the technology space, literally Kenya is a beacon of Africa when it comes to technology. And you can't tell me we can't create jobs here in this country to afford our citizens to be able to live a life that it's comfortable, right? And so I want to encourage our young people to continue having this energy, because at the end of the day, you know, I want that energy to continue into 2027, you know. And yes, again, not everything is going to change over time, but sacrifice comes. And then it takes sacrifice. It takes, you know, knowing that, you know, for example, Martin Luther King, you know, he had a dream. And he didn't live long enough to see that dream come to fruition, where now we elected a Black president. Like, could you imagine if Martin Luther King was alive when Obama got into office? Like, I can't even imagine that. So coming back to Kenya, I think Kenya has the potential to be great. In all aspects, and it's going to start with our leaders, and it's going to start with this young people continuing that fight and continue to speak up and continue to say enough is enough. Yes, I know that we have deep-rooted institutional, whatever you want to call it, but at the same time, we have an opportunity to create a country where we will look back and say the likes of Tom Boyers and them, that we made a difference in this country. And I think this new generation of young people are going to do that. Are going to, whatever this crop of leaders that we're having issues with, I always tell people, this is just but a moment. It's never gonna last forever. I know that I'm in this space for a moment. And so whatever I do, I want that moment to be significant in terms of changing people's lives, whether that is one person, whether that is 1,000 people, whatever it is. I want to be remembered for being somebody who served people with integrity and character. And I'm hoping that our leaders can truly listen to our people and say, all right, because at the end of the day, if we do right by the people, we as leaders are taken care of as well, if you really think about it. If we were doing right by the people, our economy will thrive. And all this money that is being said that has been stolen, if our economy is thriving, their businesses are thriving. You know, so it ends up being this full cycle, right? But it has to start with our leaders treating the people the right way.
I'm curious, one Kenyan to another. There've been talks that,
I
love Obama, but there've been talks that Obama did not do much for the Black community. And the reason so many Africans or Kenyans were cheering for Trump is because they, I don't know, you can pick it from there. Like, I don't want to hear from someone who has been
first
in
of
that
all,
space.
First of all,
do we just discredit him for nothing? Do you think he did enough for the Black community? What do you think?
First of all, Obama did what he could do with what he had. Keep in mind, he had to, if you understand how the president is set up, he's literally a symbol, you know, and so there's what we call checks and balances. This man, the fact that he was able to do what he did in office is by the grace of God, because if you, as a president, obviously you're working with, you are a team, right? To create policies and laws that you are able to sign, right? But every policy he brought up, if you look at his, Google, every policy that he brought up to support the Black community got shut down in Congress. You can't blame a man for trying. This man tried. And especially when it comes to Kenya, the Kenyan people didn't vote him in. It's the US people that voted him in. And there's this perception that as a leader, because you have roots somewhere, it's your responsibility to also. And I don't know what he did here. And there's probably things that he did here that we, the general population, don't know. A good example, let me bring it home here, because there's a lot of expressions on my end. Oh, now the whole entire Kenya is going to Minnesota.
By the way, can we come?
All visas. Like that. We're just going to be handing out visas.
But can we come though?
Oh, of course, you come.
It's tough here. Give us the tips, Can we come?
Right. So understanding how the system works, I think, is key, because a lot of people have this perception and they run off of that perception of what it is. But when the reality is completely different.
Yeah.
And so I look back at Obama's presidency and I applaud him for, as a Black man, being in that environment where he was literally shut down. Every move he made, he was shut down. And so the fact that he passed the Affordable Health Care Act, that was one of the biggest things that he could have passed in order for Americans to have access to health care that have never had health care. Right? Everything, he had to compromise a lot, for him to even get that, because he had to have a bipartisan support from both sides. And so when people say, well, he didn't do enough for Black people, well, what did we do for him? Did we support him? How are we supporting him? Because sometimes we sit here as people and we expect our leaders to just bring out a magic wand and make things happen. But how are we supporting our leaders? What are we doing to contribute to the betterment of our communities? Sometimes we sit here and literally put the blame on the leaders and forget that we also have a role to play in this. And so our people, get involved, be a part of this process, so that when something happens, you can't blame anybody except yourself and say, hey, I never participated. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, man, I have to wind up. Like,
I know.
Real, I know you have other places to go, so allow me to honor the request of making this, conversation happen at this particular time and end at this particular time. So I appreciate you for coming. You look amazing, by the way. Do you want to plug your... The look is looking.
Oh, thank you. A shout out to my sister, the amazing Akinye, for this beautiful outfit. And by the way, she has styled me this whole entire time. So when you see me out here looking sharp,
beautiful, it's
because of Akinye. So I just want to give a shout out to my girl.
You look amazing. Really happy to have had this opportunity to host you. It's a dream come true. I can say I'll see you in Minnesota. So
come through. I got you covered,
I'll see you in Minnesota, but I want you to, maybe looking at that camera, you said your dad gave you the green card and he said, this is the inheritance. What do you get to tell him?
To my dad and my mom, I'm grateful. I will forever be grateful for the sacrifice. Not everybody knows the tears that you guys have cried, the battles that you fought on our behalf, the battles that you continue to fight on our behalf and for your family. And so this win right here, it's for you. And to honor you, and to say thank you. Asanteni sana. Ngwanchete mbanchete yani mono sana.
Kwanchete banchete yani mani sana. What do you have to say to yourself?
I'm humbled. That is it. I'm so humble for this opportunity. I wouldn't have ever thought that a little girl from some village, a known village in Nyamira County, would be sitting here with Lynn, the amazing Lynn. I'm having a conversation that hopefully impacts somebody's life for the better, right? And I want to give you your flowers. Sis, you're doing it. All of the subscribers, now let me talk to the subscribers. People, tune in. Support this lady. She's making a difference that some of us do not have the luxury to make. So when she tells you to turn up, turn up. Let me now speak to those Gen Zs. Turn up. Please support her and continue subscribing. Tell your friends to subscribe, because this is how we support our sister to make the difference and to bring us the content that we desire and love.
Oh, I appreciate it. I really appreciate that, guys. What a show. You know, I treasure your take home. Let me know what your thoughts are on today's conversation. But even as you enjoy your moments here in Kenya, get some time, enjoy the breeze, enjoy all the time you have here. And for me, one woman to another, you've really encouraged me to go for what I believe in. Even if I fail, that too is a learning experience for me. I've drawn so much inspiration from you, and I hope our audience have done the same. And I can't do anything else other than to wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you on top.
Thank you.
I want to see you on top there.
Thank you.
You know, you are a clear definition of go for what you believe in. And someday it will make sense.
It will make
Salimia,
sense.
my people in Minnesota and the whole of diaspora, whoever is watching. I appreciate you for tuning in. I honestly appreciate your family. I see the kind of support system you have. Even this room was small, guys. Like, we have others outside. We have her husband, you know, right there, the sister. Like, this is actually amazing. And it's a reminder that we need to be able to look back and see who is around us even when we fail, who is there to lift us up, because sometimes you're not able to do it by yourself. It takes an entire clan to be able to make a win a win. So shukran sana. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section. Don't forget to tell me what your take home has been. Please, please enjoy your Christmas. It's been an amazing year together. We've had so many thought-provoking conversations. I honestly would not have done this without your love and support. So I appreciate you. Our partners at Kings Developers Limited, I spoke about them at the beginning of the conversation. Support them to give me that feedback. To my team, Scholar, Muga, Makofi kwa Edwin, because our super producer Edwin for putting this together. We appreciate you. And of course, I hope I get to see you. You know what time it is, 10 a.m. or 7 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.